In this video, we are going to learn about tactile response, mechanoreceptors and their activation mechanism. So, tactile response refers to the sense of touch and the resulting physical reaction or sensation that is produced when an object or surface comes into contact with the skin of other sensory receptors in the body. Tactile response can vary depending on the type of touch or pressure applied, as well as the sensitivity of the individual's skin and nervous system. The tactile response is a critical component of sensory processing, allowing individuals to detect and respond to physical stimuli in their environment. This sense is essential for activities such as grasping objects, feeling textures, and sensing changes in pressure or temperature. The tactile response is also involved in social and emotional communication, such as conveying affection or expressing discomfort. Tactile response can be impaired in individuals with certain conditions such as neuropathy or autism spectrum disorder. In these cases, individuals may have difficulty processing tactile information, leading to hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity to touch. Treatments for tactile sensitivity may involve occupational therapy, sensory integration therapy, or other interventions to improve sensory processing and integration. So, next topic, mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory receptors that respond to mechanical stimuli such as pressure, stretch, and vibration. They are located throughout the body and play a critical role in the sense of touch, proprioception, the awareness of one's body position and movement, and other sensory functions. There are several types of mechanoreceptors, including Meissner's corpuscles. These are located in the dermal papillae of the skin, particularly in areas that are sensitive to light touch, such as the fingertips, lips, and nipples. They are responsible for detecting fine changes in texture and vibrations. Then Merkel cells. These are located in the basal layer of the epidermis and are associated with sensory nerve endings. They are responsible for detecting pressure, texture, and foam. Then Pacinian corpuscles. These are located in the subcutaneous tissue of the skin and are responsible for detecting deep pressure and vibration. Ruffini corpuscles. These are located in the dermis and are responsible for detecting stretch and pressure. Then Golgi tendon organs. These are located in the tendons and are responsible for detecting changes in muscle tension and force. Muscle spindles. These are located in skeletal muscles and are responsible for detecting changes in muscle length and are the rate of change in length. When a mechanoreceptor is stimulated, it generates a nerve impulse that is transmitted to the central nervous system for processing and interpretation. This information is then used to coordinate motor responses, adjacent posture, and provide information about the external environment. So, mechanoreceptors are critical for our ability to interact with the world around us, and their dysfunction can result in a range of sensory and motor impairments. For example, disorders that affect mechanoreceptor function can lead to reduced sensitivity to touch, altered proprioception, and impaired motor control. Mechanoreceptors types in detail. Mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory receptors that respond to mechanical stimuli such as pressure, stretch, and vibration. There are several types of mechanoreceptors, each with a specific function and location in the body. Here are the types of mechanoreceptors in detail. First one, Meissner's corpuscle. These mechanoreceptors are found in the dermal papillae of the skin, particularly in areas that are sensitive to light touch such as fingertips, lips, and nipples. They have a small receptor field and are responsible for detecting fine changes in texture and vibration. Meissner's corpuscles are especially important for tactile discrimination and object recognition. Then Merkel cells. These mechanoreceptors are located in the basal layer of the epidermis and are associated with sensory nerve endings. They are responsible for detecting pressure, texture, and form. Then Merkel cells are found in high numbers in the fingertips, where they play a crucial role in the sense of touch and spatial discrimination. Pacinian corpuscles. Pacinian corpuscles. These mechanoreceptors are located in the subcutaneous tissue of the skin and are responsible for detecting deep pressure and vibration. So Pacinian corpuscles, these mechanoreceptors are located in the subcutaneous tissue of the skin and are responsible for detecting deep pressures and vibration. They have a large receptor field and respond to changes in pressure or vibration over a wide range of frequencies. They have a large receptor field and respond to changes in pressure or vibration over a wide range of frequencies. Phoenician corpuscles are important for proprioception and are important in the detection of objects in the environment. Then Ruffini corpuscles. These mechanoreceptors are located in the dermis and are responsible for detecting stretch and pressure. They have a large receptor field and respond to sustained pressure or distortion of the skin. Ruffini corpuscles are important for monitoring joint position and limb movement. Then Golgi tendon organs. These mechanoreceptors are located in the tendons and are responsible for detecting changes in muscle tension and force. They provide feedback to the central nervous system about muscle contraction and play a role in regulating muscle tone and preventing overloading of the muscle. Then muscle spindles. These mechanoreceptors are located in skeletal muscles and are responsible for detecting changes in muscle length and rate of change in length. They play a crucial role in proprioception and motor control by providing feedback about muscle length and tension to the central nervous system. The different types of mechanoreceptors have distinct functions and are located throughout the body. So together they play a critical role in the sense of touch, proprioception and motor control. Dysfunction of these mechanoreceptors can lead to sensory and motor impairment, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. Then mechanoreceptors in human. Mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory receptors that respond to mechanical stimuli such as pressure, stretch and vibration. They are located in various tissues throughout the body, including the skin, muscle, tendons and joints. And play a critical role in the sense of touch, proprioception and motor control. Now we are going to look at the physiology of mechanoreceptors in case of humans. So structure. Mechanoreceptors are composed of a sensory nerve ending and an associated accessory structure that helps to amplify and transmit mechanical stimuli to the sensory neuron. The accessory structure can take different forms depending on the type of mechanoreceptor. For example, Pacinian corpuscles have concentric layers of connective tissue that surround the sensory nerve ending, while muscle spindles have specialized muscle fibers called intrafusal fibers that are surrounded by sensory nerve endings. Then sensory transduction. When a mechanical stimulus is applied to the accessory structure of a mechanoreceptor, it causes a deformation of the sensory nerve ending. This deformation leads to the opening or closing of ion channels in the nerve membrane, which generates an electrical signal known as receptor potential. The magnitude of the receptor potential is proportional to the magnitude of the mechanical stimulus. Then action potential generation. If the receptor potential is strong enough to reach the threshold of action potential generation, and action potential is fired along the sensory neuron, the firing rate of action potentials is proportional to the strength and duration of the mechanical stimulus. So afferent transmission is the next process. The sensory neuron carrying the action potential projects to the central nerve system, where the information is processed and integrated. The size, myelination and conduction velocity of the sensory neuron vary depending on the type of mechanoreceptor. For example, Pacinian corpuscles have large myelinated sensory neurons that conduct rapidly, while Merkel's cells have small unmyelinated sensory neurons that conduct slowly. Then central processing. Mechanoreceptors project to various regions of the central nervous system, including the spinal cord, brainstem, thalamus and cortex. In the cortex, the information from mechanoreceptors is processed to generate a perception of touch, texture, pressure and other tactile sensations. The information from mechanoreceptors also contribute to proprioception, the sense of body position and movement. In summary, mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory receptors that convert mechanical stimuli into electrical signals. The signals are transmitted to the central nervous system, where they are processed and integrated to generate a perception of touch, pressure and other tactile sensations. Mechanoreceptors are critical for our ability to interact with the environment and maintain normal motor function. Then mechanoreceptors in human in detail. Mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory. I'm over and over once again repeating the same topics just because I just wanted you guys to completely understand and just fix this topic in your brain, and this also helps me to learn, so please pardon me for repeating. Mechanoreceptors are specialized sensory receptors that respond to mechanical stimuli such as pressure, stretch, and vibration. They are located in various tissues throughout the body, including the skin, muscle, tendons, and joints, and play a crucial role in the sense of touch, proprioception, and motor control. First, Meissner's corpuscles. These mechanoreceptors are located in the dermal papillae of the skin, as we have mentioned earlier, particularly in areas that are sensitive to light touch, such as fingertips, lips, and nipples. They have a small receptor field and are responsible for detecting fine changes in texture and vibrations. Meissner's corpuscles are especially important for tactile discrimination and object recognition. Then, Penisian corpuscles. These mechanoreceptors are located in the subcutaneous tissue of the skin and are responsible for detecting deep pressure and vibration. They have a large receptor field and respond to changes in pressure or vibration over a wide range of frequencies. Penisian corpuscles are important for proprioception and the detection of objects in the environment. Then Ruffini corpuscles, next one, Ruffini corpuscles. These mechanoreceptors are located in the dermis and are responsible for detecting stretch and pressure. They have a large receptive area and respond to sustained pressure or distortion of the skin. Ruffini corpuscles are important for monitoring joint position and limb movement. Then next one, muscle spindles. These mechanoreceptors are located in skeletal muscles and are responsible for detecting changes in muscle length and rate of change in length. They play a critical role in proprioception and motor control by providing feedback about muscle length and tension to the central nervous system. Next, Golgi tendon organs. These mechanoreceptors are located in the tendons and are responsible for detecting changes in muscle tension and force. They provide feedback to the central nervous system about muscle contraction and play a role in regulating muscle tone and preventing overloading of the muscle. Next one, baroreceptors. These mechanoreceptors are located in the walls of the body vessels, walls of the blood vessels, and the heart, and are responsible for detecting changes in blood pressure. They send signals to the central nervous system to regulate blood pressure and maintain homeostasis. In summary, mechanoreceptors are found in various tissues throughout the body and play important roles in touch, proprioception, and motor control. They respond to different types of mechanical stimuli such as pressure, stretch, and vibration, and provide critical feedback to the central nervous system about the body's position and movement. Dysfunction of mechanoreceptors can lead to sensory and motor impairments, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. First one, Meissner's corpuscle. Its structure, stimulation mechanism with function. So Meissner's corpuscles are specialized mechanoreceptors that are located in the skin, particularly in areas that are sensitive to light touch, such as the fingertips, lips, and nipples. They play a crucial role in the sense of touch and tactile discrimination. Here is a detailed look at the structure, stimulation mechanism, and functions of Meissner's corpuscles. So structure, Meissner's corpuscles are encapsulated structures that consist of a stack of flattened Schwann cells which surround a group of axons that make up the sensory nerve ending. The entire structure is surrounded by connective tissue and is oriented parallel to the surface of the skin. The sensory nerve fibers are myelinated and are relatively small in diameter. So how they stimulate? This the stimulation mechanism we are going to learn. Meissner's corpuscles are stimulated by mechanical forces such as pressure, stretch, and vibration. When a mechanical force is applied to the skin, it deforms the corpuscle and causes the axons within it to be compressed or stretched. This mechanical deformation leads to the opening or closing of ion channels in the sensory nerve ending, which generates an electrical signal known as a receptor potential. The magnitude of the receptor potential is proportional to the magnitude of the mechanical stimulus. And Meissner's corpuscles are responsible for detecting light touch and tactile discrimination. They are highly sensitive to changes in texture and vibration and play a critical role in the ability to recognize and manipulate objects. Meissner's corpuscles are found in highest density in areas of the body that require fine tactile discrimination such as fingertips, lips, and nipples. They also have a small receptive field, which means that they are capable of detecting very small changes in texture and position. Meissner's corpuscles are important for the perception of shapes, edges, and textures. When the skin is moved over an object, Meissner's corpuscles are stimulated, providing information about the shape and texture of the object. Meissner's corpuscles are also important for the perception of vibration. When a vibrating object is placed against the skin, Meissner's corpuscles are stimulated, allowing us to perceive the frequency and amplitude of the vibration. In addition to their role in touch and tactile discrimination, Meissner's corpuscles also play a role in regulating blood flow to the skin. When Meissner's corpuscles are stimulated, they cause the blood vessels in the skin to dilate, increasing blood flow to the area. This can help to regulate skin temperature and prevent tissue damage. So in summary, Meissner's corpuscles are specialized mechanoreceptors that are responsible for detecting light, touch, and tactile discrimination. They are highly sensitive to changes in texture and vibration and play a crucial role in the perception of shapes, edges, and textures. Meissner's corpuscle is also important for regulating blood flow to the skin. Dysfunction of Meissner's corpuscle can lead to sensory impairment and loss of tactile discrimination, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. Then, Pacinian corpuscle in detail, its structure, stimulation mechanism, and along with its functions. So, Pacinian corpuscles are specialized mechanoreceptors that are located in various parts of the body, including the skin, mesenteries, and peritoneum. They play a crucial role in the sense of touch and the perception of pressure. Here is a detailed look on the structure, stimulation, mechanism, and functions of Pacinian corpuscles. So, Pacinian corpuscles are encapsulated structures that consist of a stack of concentric layers of connective tissue and flattened cells known as lamellae. At the center of a corpuscle is an axon that makes up the sensory nerve ending. The entire structure is surrounded by connective tissue and is oriented perpendicular to the surface of the skin. The sensory nerve fibers are myelinated and are relatively large in diameter. Its stimulation mechanism include the Pacinian corpuscles. Pacinian corpuscles are stimulated by mechanical forces such as pressure and vibration. When a mechanical force is applied to the skin, it deforms the corpuscle and causes the lamellae to move relative to each other. This mechanical deformation leads to the opening or closing of ion channels in the sensory nerve ending, which generate an electrical signal known as receptor potential. The magnitude of the receptor potential is proportional to the magnitude of the mechanical stimulus. So, Pacinian corpuscles are responsible for detecting deep pressure and high frequency vibration. They are found in highest density in areas of the body that are subjected to high levels of pressure, such as the fingertips and soles of the feet. Then, Pacinian corpuscles have a large receptive field, which means that they are capable of detecting a wide range of stimuli across a broad area. Pacinian corpuscles are important for the perception of pressure and vibration when a vibrating object is placed against the skin. Pacinian corpuscles are stimulated, allowing us to perceive the frequency and amplitude of the vibration. Similarly, when pressure is applied to the skin, Pacinian corpuscles are stimulated, providing information about the magnitude and direction of the pressure. In addition to their role in touch and pressure perception, Pacinian corpuscles also play a role in proprioception, which is the sense of body position and movement. Pacinian corpuscles in the joints and tendons provide information about joint position and movement, helping to maintain balance and coordination. Pacinian corpuscles are also involved in the modulation of pain perception. When a strong pressure stimulus is applied to the skin, Pacinian corpuscles can inhibit the transmission of pain signals to the central nervous system, reducing the perception of pain. In summary, Pacinian corpuscles are specialized mechanoreceptors that are responsible for detecting deep pressure and high frequency vibration. They are responsible for perception of the pressure, vibration, and proprioception, and can also modulate brain reception. This function of Pacinian corpuscles can lead to sensory impairment and loss of touch perception, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. Next topic, Ruffini corpuscles, its structure, stimulation mechanism, and functions. So, Ruffini corpuscles, also known as Ruffini endings, are specialized mechanoreceptors found in the skin and mucous membranes. They are responsible for detecting stretch and deformation of the skin and underlying tissues. Here is a detailed look at the structure, stimulation mechanism, and functions of Ruffini fibers. Structure: Ruffini corpuscles are elongated, spindle-shaped structures that consist of a network of collagen fibers and a sensory nerve ending. They are encapsulated in connective tissue and are oriented parallel to the skin surface. The sensory nerve fibers are myelinated and are relatively small in diameter. Then stimulation mechanism, when we just try to learn. Ruffini's corpuscles are stimulated by mechanical deformation such as stretching or pulling of the skin or underlying tissue. When a mechanical force is applied to the corpuscle, it causes the collagen fibers to stretch, which in turn stretches the sensory nerve ending. The mechanical deformation leads to the opening or closing of ion channels in the sensory nerve ending, which generates an electrical signal known as receptor potential. The magnitude of the receptor potential is proportional to the magnitude of the mechanical stimulus. So functions of Ruffini corpuscles include which are responsible for detecting changes in skin and tissue deformation such as stretching or pulling. They are found in highest density in areas of the body that experience a lot of stretching and deformation, such as the fingers, palm, and soles of the feet. Ruffini corpuscles are important for maintaining grip and controlling the force of movements. When the skin and underlying tissues are stretched, Ruffini corpuscles are stimulated, providing information about the direction and magnitude of the force being applied. This information is caused by the central nervous system to adjust muscle activity and maintain grip on objects. Ruffini corpuscles also play a role in proprioception, which is the sense of body position and movement. They are found in the joints and provide information about joint position and movement, helping to maintain balance and coordination. In addition to their role in touch and proprioception, Ruffini corpuscles are also involved in modulation of pain perception. When a skin and underlying tissues are stretched, Ruffini corpuscles can inhibit the transmission of pain signals to the central nervous system, reducing the perception of pain. In summary, Ruffini corpuscles are specialized mechanoreceptors that are responsible for detecting changes in skin and tissue deformation. They are responsible for maintaining grip and controlling the force of movements as well as providing information about joint position and movement. Ruffini corpuscles can also modulate pain perception. Dysfunction of Ruffini corpuscles can lead to sensory impairment and loss of touch perception, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. Then muscle spindles. Structure, stimulation mechanism in detail with functions. Muscle spindles are specialized sensory receptors located within muscle tissue. They are responsible for detecting changes in muscle length and the rate of change in length, which is important for proprioception and controlling movement. So muscle spindles are encapsulated structures that are found within skeletal muscle tissue. They consist of intrafusal muscle fibers, which are smaller and less powerful than the extrafusal muscle fibers responsible for muscle contraction. Each muscle spindle contains several intrafusal muscle fibers, which are innervated by sensory nerve fibers. The sensory fibers wrap around the central region of the intrafusal fibers, which is called the equatorial region, and are sensitive to changes in length and rate of changes of length. Then stimulation mechanism, when we try to learn about muscle spindles are stimulated by changes in muscle length and rate of change of length. When the muscle is stretched, the intrafusal muscle fibers within the spindle are also stretched. This stretching causes the sensory nerve ending wrapped around the equatorial region to depolarize and generate an action potential. So action potential is generated there. The magnitude and frequency of the action potential are proportional to the amount and rate of change of muscle length. Then functions. Muscle spindles have several important functions in the control of movement and proprioception. Proprioception, muscle spindles provide information about muscle length and the rate of change of muscle length. This information is used by the central nervous system to maintain posture and balance and to coordinate movement. Then control of muscle contraction. Muscle spindles play an important role in regulating muscle contraction. When the muscle is stretched, the sensory fibers within the muscle spindle send a signal to the spinal cord, which in turn sends a signal back to the muscle to contract. This is known as the stretch reflex and is very helpful to maintain muscle tone and prevent injury due to overstretching. Then feedback during movement. Muscle spindle provide continuous feedback to the central nervous system during movement, allowing for adjustments to be made in real time. For example, if a muscle is stretched too quickly during a movement, the muscle spindle will send a signal to the spinal cord, which will then send a signal back to the muscle to contract and prevent overstretching. Then adaptation to changes in muscle length. Muscle spindles can adapt to changes in muscle length over time, allowing for increased flexibility and range of motion. This adaptation occurs through a process known as sensory motor learning, in which the central nervous system aims to adjust muscle contraction based on the feedback from muscle spindles. In summary, muscle spindles are specialized sensory receptors located within muscle tissue. They are responsible for providing information about muscle length and the rate of change of muscle length, which is important for proprioception, control of muscle contraction, feedback during movement, and adaptation to changes in muscle length. Dysfunction of muscle spindles can lead to sensory impairments, movement disorders, and an increased risk of injury, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. So next, Golgi tendon organs. Golgi tendon organs, or GTOs, are specialized sensory receptors located within tendons, which are fibrous connective tissue that attach muscles to bones. They are responsible for detecting changes in muscle tension and transmitting this information to the central nervous system, which is important for proprioception and controlling movement. Here is a detailed look at the structure, stimulation mechanism, and functions of Golgi tendon organs. So Golgi tendon organs are encapsulated structures that are located at the junction of a tendon and a muscle. They consist of collagen fibers that are wrapped around sensory nerve endings. The collagen fibers are connected to these sensory muscle fibers at one end and to the tendon at the other end. When the muscle contracts, the tension in the tendon increases, which stretches the collagen fibers and activates the sensory nerve endings. Then stimulation mechanism. Golgi tendon organs are stimulated by changes in muscle tension. When the muscle contracts, the tension in the tendon increases, which stretches the collagen fiber within the Golgi tendon organ. This stretching activates the sensory nerve endings, which generate an action potential. The magnitude of action potential is proportional to the amount of tension in the tendon. So Golgi tendon organs are generally important and just have different functions in the control of movement and proprioception. So in case of proprioception related functions, Golgi tendon organs provide information about muscle tension and the force being generated by the muscle. This information is used by the central nervous system to maintain posture and balance and to coordinate movement. Control of muscle contraction. Golgi tendon organs play an important role in regulating muscle contraction. When the muscle contracts, the tension in the tendon increases, which activates the muscle Golgi tendon organs. This activates inhibitory interneurons in the spinal cord, which inhibit the muscle from contracting further. This is known as the reverse stretch reflex and is very helpful to prevent muscle damage due to excessive force. Then feedback during movement. Golgi tendon organs provide continuous feedback to the central nervous system during movement, allowing for adjustments to be made in real time. For example, if a muscle is generating too much force during a movement, the Golgi tendon organs will send a signal to the spinal cord, which will then send a signal back to the muscle to reduce its force output. Then adaptation to changes in muscle tension. Golgi tendon organs can adapt to changes in muscle tension over time, allowing for increased stretch and force production. This adaptation occurs through the process called stretch training, in which the muscles are progressively overloaded to stimulate adaptation of Golgi tendon organs. In summary, Golgi tendon organs are specialized sensory receptors located within tendons. They are responsible for providing information about muscle tension and force production, which is important for proprioception, control of muscle contraction, feedback during movement, and adaptation to changes in muscle tension. Then dysfunction of Golgi tendon organs can lead to sensory impairment, movement disorders, and increased risk of injury, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. Then baroreceptors. Next topic, baroreceptors. Baroreceptors, also called pressure receptors, are specialized sensory receptors that detect changes in blood pressure and transmit this information to the central nervous system, where it is used to regulate cardiovascular function. So baroreceptors are located in the walls of blood vessels, particularly in aorta and carotid sinus. They consist of specialized nerve endings that are sensitive to changes in the stretch or tension of the blood vessel walls. The nerve endings are connected to sensory nerve fibers that transmit signals to the central nervous system. So stimulation mechanism, and we just try to learn about the stimulation mechanism. I can see that baroreceptors are stimulated by changes in blood pressure. When blood pressure increases, the walls of the blood vessels stretch, which activate the baroreceptor. This activation generates an action potential that is transmitted to the central nervous system via sensory nerve fibers. So conversely, when blood pressure decreases, the walls of the blood vessels relax, which reduces the stimulation of the baroreceptors. When we just try to learn the functions of baroreceptors, we can see baroreceptors have several important functions in the regulation of cardiovascular function, like something related to the control of blood pressure. Baroreceptors play a crucial role in short-term regulation of blood pressure. When blood pressure increases, the baroreceptors send signals to the central nervous system, which triggers a decrease in sympathetic nervous system activity and an increase in parasympathetic nervous system activity. This leads to a decrease in heart rate and blood pressure. Conversely, when blood pressure decreases, the baroreceptors send signals to the central nervous system, which triggers an increase in sympathetic nervous system activity and a decrease in parasympathetic nervous system activity. This leads to an increase in heart rate and blood pressure. Then regulation of cardiac function. Baroreceptors also play a role in the regulation of cardiac function. When blood pressure increases, the baroreceptors send signals to the central nervous system, which triggers a decrease in heart rate and decrease in force of concentration of the heart. Conversely, when blood pressure decreases, the baroreceptors send signals to the central nervous system, which triggers an increase in blood rate and an increase in the force of contraction of the heart. Then response of orthostatic stress. Baroreceptors play a critical role in maintaining blood pressure during changes in body position. When a person stands up, blood pressure initially drops due to gravity. This drop in blood pressure activates the baroreceptors, which trigger an increase in sympathetic nervous system activity and a decrease in parasympathetic nervous system activity. This leads to an increase in heart rate and blood pressure, which helps to maintain cerebral blood flow and prevent fainting. Then adaptation to chronic changes in blood pressure. Baroreceptors can adapt to chronic changes in blood pressure over time. For example, in individuals with hypertension, high blood pressure, the baroreceptors may become less sensitive to changes in blood pressure. This can contribute to the development of hypertension by reducing the ability of the body to regulate blood pressure. In summary, baroreceptors are specialized sensory receptors located in the walls of the blood vessel that detect changes in blood pressure. They play a critical role in short-term regulation of blood pressure, the regulation of cardiac function, the response to orthostatic stress, and the adaptation to chronic changes in blood pressure. Dysfunction of baroreceptors can lead to cardiovascular disorders such as hypertension, highlighting their importance in maintaining normal physiological function. Next topic we will be learning in the next video.